the translation mechanism between material and metaphysical phenomena is electromagnetism. In contained bodies of approximately our scale, the humans, animals, plants, etc., it takes the form of electricity. Electricity is the light. So metaphysical entities can cause motion somehow. And the way that they cause motion creates some kind of light. The light of whatever format can be received by material and interacted with. But in addition to being received by it, can also be created by it and sent back up to the metaphysical being aspect. So electricity can be contained within bodies because of the basically the wavelength that it's traveling at is small enough. So if you get a longer wavelength of electromagnetic wave, then it'll travel through more stuff without stopping. And so the bodies that it can control would be massively larger if the wavelengths are massively larger. So this doesn't mean that there aren't beings. There could be beings who have bodies on the scales of solar systems that are controlled by things like longer wavelengths of electromagnetism, and that I think that probably is the case, and that they send and receive signals that way. If aliens exist and they exist within bodies, then I think they must exist using an electrical matrix to send and receive information from the metaphysical to the physical, and in reverse as well. But when you're creating, like, say, neurons in a lab from human brains, what you're creating is the couch that the metaphysical sits upon to give orders. You're not necessarily creating the thing which sits upon the couch, if you know what I mean. Like, you're creating the matrix of things that are interacted with by the metaphysical, but you're not necessarily creating the metaphysical to interact. Creating the metaphysical to interact is what they're attempting to do with artificial intelligence and so on. But I don't know. I don't know. See, the thing is, life, the categorical shift that it uses to basically reverse entropy is that it increases entropy in a metaphysical space in order to cause a decrease in entropy in the physical space, which breaks physics. All right, like this is Maxwell's demon, right? Maxwell's demon causes a reverse of entropy into less and less entropy over time, and actually beings that are conscious, maybe beings that are willed, I don't know, but they can actually do that on the physical level. But what they're doing is they're shifting the entropy categorically from a physical entropy into a metaphysical entropy. Yeah, and seeming like they break physics by doing so, but just because we have a limited conception of reality, and looking at just physics is not looking at the whole system, right? So, but to create a metaphysical being, and then to tie it to a physical body is, I think, far beyond our current capacities. And that's the reason I don't think these brains, or the mini brains we're growing in labs, are actually doing that. I think we don't understand the realities which cause that to occur. I think they're beyond us, but I don't think they're beyond us forever necessarily. I think that we could potentially figure out how to do it. And this is an aspect of what we'd have to understand in order to be able to do that. But I mean, I think it's infinitely more scary to realize that when artificial intelligence is interacting with humans, that there is a metaphysical entity interacting with physical matter already through us. You don't need like the mini brains that we're growing in labs don't have to be doing that for that to be already happening. It is happening. It's happening through us. Yeah, I mean, taking us out of the equation is, I think, beyond us, but maybe not forever. And yeah, I mean, you can see just like when the pandemic started, the transfer of information across electrical signals across the world, the internet, etc., was so instantaneous nearly with the disease itself, and people reacted in surprisingly uniform ways, although contradictory sometimes, because there's no being of the internet. The internet is a matrix in which beings can interact, right? But that is the control structure. We've built out the control structure for some kind of a metaphysical being. We just don't have the metaphysical being necessarily plugged into it yet, or we have maybe too many of them plugged in all at the same time for it to give regular commands that are received uniformly and reacted to uniformly. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It might happen. I think probably the way it's going to happen is, since there are so many diverse groups around the world, that the internet is going to be broken into sections, and those sections will have each one of them a uniform being in management of it, and then the commands in each sector will be uniform, and those who are plugged into those sectors will react to that information uniformly, as a body does, because these are electrical signals. So this is the signaling system of a body, of a contained physical form, right? So I think that's probably very likely to happen.